All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo Sports Talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Thank you so much for watching, for listening, however you are consuming Talking Buffalo. I appreciate you guys very much. Do us a solid if you're not already. Make sure that you are following or subscribed, depending on whether you watch or whether you listen to the show. It really continues to help us grow in all those algorithms that are out there. Today's episode is brought to you by Sunny Reds, 1841 Aber Road, just on the way from Highmark Stadium. One of my favorite places to go eat, drink, hang out in all of Western New York. Brand new outdoor patio that was put in this summer. Really got some mileage out of that. Enjoyed it a lot. And I'll tell you what, if you're looking for a really solid food special that combines great food with a great price, look no further than Sunny Reds. Large pizza, 20 wings, $45. In today's economy, that is a steal. And especially when you take into account just how good the food is at Sunny Reds. And that's their all the time special. It's not just one day or one night, anytime. Dine in, take out, whatever you want. $45, large pizza, brick oven pizza style, 20 wings. You cannot beat that. Sunny Reds. All right, folks, it's Friday. Well, most of you will be listening to this on Friday anyway. It is our weekly Buffalo Bills preview, and it does not get bigger than this. The Buffalo Bills, the Kansas City Chiefs, Orchard Park, Sunday, 4:25 p.m. Who is not excited about this game? If you're not excited about this football game, whether you're a Bills fan, whether you're a Kansas City Chiefs fan, or even if you're just an NFL fan in general, why are you even watching football? Two of the very best teams going at it yet again. The eyes of the country, if not the world, and that's not hyperbole, it's literal, will be on Highmark Stadium. I almost said Ralph Wilson Stadium all these years later. But anyway, what a game we have in store. We're going to have our Bills Chiefs preview. We'll talk about both teams a little bit, and then I'm going to have 3 keys to a Buffalo Bills victory. Then we'll have 5 bold predictions for the game, and we'll end the episode with me taking a stab who I think is going to win and what the final score of this game is going to be. Real quick, before we jump into that preview, Bills related to the Buffalo Bills announced on Thursday that training camp will continue in Rochester, Pittsford, St. John's Fisher, a 3-year extension. So for the foreseeable future, training camp will continue in Rochester. I got to tell you, somebody who lives in Buffalo, I live literally 10 minutes or less from Highmark Stadium. There used to be a time where I didn't like that. I wanted training camp to be close at home, if for no other reason than just the convenience of being able to go easily. I'll tell you what, though, I have really, over the last, say, maybe 2 years or so, have come to love taking those trips to Rochester. I like the drive. I love Pittsford. It's a great little town. There's a lot to do there and in Rochester. Pittsford Dairy, chocolate milkshakes galore. I love that place. So many cool places that I've discovered in Rochester to go eat and hang out at. So good for that community. And I kind of like that the players, and I know they do too, that they get to get away and kind of get that college vibe again. So anyway, training camp will continue in Rochester for the next 3 years. All right, let's get into, well, I'll tell you what, we'll start with like injury updates here for the game. Actually, we'll get to injury updates in a second. When it comes to the Bills, and to some level the Chiefs, but I would say a little bit more than the Bills. We say it every year. We say it every year because, and especially with the Bills, because the Kansas City Chiefs, whether they win or lose in the regular season, they find a way to get it done in January, and ultimately they get to the Super Bowl. It's a very important game to them as well. We'll talk about that in a minute. But when it comes to the Bills, we say it every year. But it feels like now more than ever, this is a measuring stick game for the Buffalo Bills. Like, we don't know what these Buffalo Bills are. And they've played 7 games, and they're 5-2. But you still get a sense on both sides of the football, which is a little bit surprising to say. I would expect that to say about the defense, not so much the offense. But I feel like right now, both sides of the football we really don't know what these Buffalo Bills are. We don't know anything other than the Buffalo Bills can run the shit out of the football. They're the best in the NFL in rushing, 164 yards a game. They are pounding the ball down opponents' throats. But outside of that, the passing game has been sketchy. The defense at times has played well. At times it's been a little suspect. And at times it's just been downright awful. And you look at the records. They're 5-2. Who have they really beaten? Baltimore in week 1 obviously has been the signature win to this point. And it took an incredible comeback. And I'm not going to take anything away from Buffalo. It was an awesome comeback and they deserved to win the game. But, they were pretty much mostly dominated for 3 quarters before they pulled off the comeback. They beat in the Jets. They beat in Miami. They beat in the Saints. I know they just went into Carolina last week, who was a respectable team at 4-3, and they embarrassed them. But, that team was never, I don't think they were really that good. Andy Dalton, terrible quarterback. Well, he might not be a terrible quarterback, but he played terrible in that football game. Holy shit. And then they had for the 4th time in 2 years, they lose 2 straight. Ugly ass stretch. They lose at home, which is something you don't say often, to the Patriots. I think May outplayed Josh Allen that game. And then, of course, the Atlanta game on Monday Night Football, where the offense was just abysmal and the defense was the same for the first half of that game. So my point is, we really don't know much about this football team. What I will say for both teams is that there is a lot at stake. A lot. And that goes for the Chiefs, too. Whoever loses this game, like if the Buffalo Bills go out on Sunday and they lose to the Chiefs, forget about the vibes, how you feel, if you're going to question if this team is real, if they're fraud, if, do you signal the fraud alert sign? Forget about all that. I'm talking in terms of like the standings and probabilities. If the Bills lose this game, they'll be about 84% to make the playoffs still. But the chances of the Bills, and this is per The Athletic, by the way, I got to make sure I give them some props. If the Bills lose this game, their chances of winning the AFC East, the division title for what would be a 6th straight year, it goes down to 25%. 25%. You can almost completely forget about the number 1 seed with a loss. The Bills' odds would be at 5%. So, in terms of making the playoffs, this is just another game. This is another 1 out of 17 if your goal is to only make the playoffs. And that's it. This is just 1 out of 17. This game's no more important than Miami will be next week when it comes to that specific purpose, considering the fact that even if the Bills lose, they'll still be at 84%. But if your goal, and it should be a minimum, your goal is to win the division, because at the very least, you're going to get at least 1 home game if you win the division. That goes down to 25%. That is significant. And again, 5% for the 1 seed. You can almost write that off. Now with the Chiefs, again, I feel like every year it feels like this game means more to the Bills than it does the Chiefs. I'm not so sure that that's going to be the case this season, because this game means a lot to the Kansas City Chiefs, who already have 3 losses this year, folks. If the Kansas City Chiefs lose this game, their playoff percentage is right around the Bills at 85%. However, in the AFC West, if they lose this game, their chances of winning that division goes down to 38%. That's not high at all, 38%. And just like the Buffalo Bills, if they lose this game, their chance to get in the number 1 seed is identically the same, 5%. 5%. So again, the Kansas City Chiefs, they've won on a roll through all these years, gotten all these Super Bowls. They've never done it as a wild card team that didn't win their division, where they had to go on the road potentially for the entire playoffs. But that might be the case if they lose this football game. So it is a big game in terms of stakes for both teams. Let's talk about the Bills briefly here, and then we'll hit up Kansas City and get to our keys and all that other stuff. With the Bills, it's weird to start a preview talking about anyone else other than Josh Allen, but today there's only one way to start this, and it's with the guy who's led the way for the Bills offense, if not the team this year, and that's James Cook. There's no other way to start, as far as I'm concerned, than with him. 753 rushing yards this year, which is second in the NFL. He's got 7 touchdowns. He's averaging 6.0 yards per carry. He's got 410 rushing yards this year after contact. 19 runs of at least 10 or more yards. So James Cook has been the real deal. James Cook has been the most consistently good player on this team. Hell, James Cook has been the best player on the Buffalo Bills through 7 weeks. So if you want to talk about early returns on an investment with Brandon Beane, look no further than James Cook. A contract that I'm going to assume Brandon Beane kind of got forced to do and didn't really want to have to do, that felt, a little bit like a reach, maybe a tiny overpay at the time in training camp. That looks like a bargain right now with James Cook. So James Cook is running the rock. The Bills as a team, again, like I said at the beginning, they're number 1 in the NFL right now in yards per game, 164.4. They're second in the league in yards per carry. They're second in the league in EPA per rush. They're first in the league in EPA rushing success rate. So they can run the football as good or better than anyone else. And they got a real good balance with how they run the football as well. They've run in between the tackles 46% of the time. They've run outside of the tackle 49% of the time this year. So the running game is a strength. When it comes to pass catchers, Dalton Kincaid, Khalil Shakir, they haven't lit the league on fire by any means, but I feel like they've been about as good as you can realistically expect them to be. The problem with the Bills' passing game is Kincaid's been fine. He missed a game because of an injury, but he's been fine. Khalil Shakir has been fine. He was really good last week, a big factor in the Bills' lopsided win at Carolina. But the problem is those 2 guys get going. They can't get a third to get going this year. That's been the biggest issue. Josh Allen's not throwing for a lot of yards. Only 194 yards per game in his last 6 starts after having 394 yards against Baltimore in week 1. Of course, 261 total yards against Baltimore came literally in the 4th quarter of that game. So it's just been, and it's a combination. Some of it's Josh, of course, but these receivers, they're not getting open and they're just not producing with any consistency whatsoever beyond Kincaid and Shakir. Keon Coleman, who has been a hot topic discussion to say the least recently, and especially this week. Let's just call it what it is. Keon Coleman has been a disaster for the Buffalo Bills since week 1. Week 1, 8 catches, $112 and a touchdown. Huge against the Ravens. Since then, his last 6 games combined, 19 catches, 155 yards. If you want to do the math, Keon Coleman is averaging 26 yards receiving per game since the Baltimore season opener. Lots of factors, but man, this does not look anything like the guy that we saw at training camp that was Randy Moss in defenders, making big plays day after day after day. And after week 1, we thought it was going to carry into the regular season. It did. But since then, not at all. Not at all. Josh Palmer has shown promise, but he's been hurt. Curtis Samuel has done absolutely zero in his limited action with the team this year. Tyrell Shavers knocked the factor that maybe we hoped he would be in a 3rd, 4th, or 5th receiver role. Elijah Moore, very sporadic. It's just been not good with the passing game. Other side of the ball, defensively, again, mixed results. 9th best in scoring. They're giving up 20.9 points per game. That's not bad. They're 12th in yards per game. They're 19th in yards per play. They're 11th in EPA per play. They're 2nd in passing yards allowed per game, which sounds great, but again, potential fraud alert going on there. 5th in EPA per pass. Not dead last. Second from last in rushing. They're 31st in rushing yards per game. They're 31st in rushing yards per play. They're 19th in EPA per rush. They're 24th in quarterback pressures. And they're 13th, roughly middle of the pack when it comes to pressure rate, getting after the quarterback at 36%. Now, I said the pass defense statistically, metrically looks good, being second overall and 5th in EPA, but it kind of feels a little bit fraudulent because you look at who they played. Justin Fields, a very struggling Tua, Spencer Rattler, who's not even starting anymore for the Saints, Andy Dalton, who only started for the Panthers because Bryce Young was hurt. So they played some pretty shitty quarterbacks. And the secondary has struggled this year, especially their great players. Like the players on the secondary that you consider great players for the Bills have not been great this season. Christian Benford, who absolutely earned a significant contract extension over the last couple of years, his past offseason, he has been very pedestrian this year. Quarterbacks have a 123.7 passer rating when targeting him. Not good. Teron Johnson, who I've talked about recently on the show, 98.5 passer rating against, and he just has not looked good in coverage. He's missed tackles. He hasn't been a very good tackler this season, and he's just lacking, he's lacking any impactful plays. Teron Johnson has made his living. He's made his bones in this league. He's been an all-pro in this league by being a game-changing, impactful type of player. Well, there's been none of that so far this season. Obviously, this Sunday would be a really good time to start because he hasn't done any of that this season. Linebacker play's been kind of a mess, at least with the starters anyway. Terrell Bernard has not been good this year. Matt Milano's been okay, and he's been hurt twice now. Shaq Thompson, who's hurt, we'll talk about that in a second. He's been their best linebacker over the last month. And it's raised questions this week that if Shaq Thompson and Dorian Williams are healthy and Milano and Bernard, even if they're healthy, do they start? I think that question might be getting answered because Shaq Thompson did not participate in practice on Thursday. So I think Terrell Bernard will be back in line to start there. But still, man, that's not good. The strength of the Bills' defense has been their defensive line. I think it's been pretty good. Deion Walker, and again, I can't believe I'm mentioning him first among DL guys right now, but absolute reservation. Like, what a revelation they would be. Imagine where the Bills would be right now without Deion Walker, that position. How screwed they would be without him. With DeQuan Jones hurt, with Ed Oliver maybe done for the season. Dwayne Carter got hurt before the season even started. TJ Sanders, the second-round pick, the first of the two defensive tackles, he got hurt. He wasn't doing much before that, and he's on IR. Where would they be without Deion Walker? It's just crazy. The hope, I think, for the defense is the addition of the new blood. We saw last week. Michael Hoyt made his debut. He was fantastic against Carolina. Max Hairston, Jordan Hancock in the secondary, they looked really good too, and I think you're going to see, hopefully, an increased role in this game on Sunday. Anyway, quick break, come back, and I want to spend a few minutes talking about Kansas City, and then we're going to get into keys and a bold prediction. All right, the Kansas City Chiefs come in winning 3 games in a row, 4 of their last 5 after starting the season with back-to-back losses against the Chargers in Brazil and the Philadelphia Eagles. Among those 3 straight was a very impressive 30-17 win over the Detroit Lions a few weeks ago. So unlike the Bills, who have not been tested much this season, the Chiefs have played some good teams. The Chargers, the Eagles, the Lions. Usually, at least the last couple of years, when Kansas City comes to town, it feels like the offense comes limping in. Like the defense was playing good, the offense not so much, and they were struggling to find ways to win games. That ain't the case this year, folks. The Kansas City passing game has been on fire of late. They're first in the NFL in pass rate over expected, and by a lot. Patrick Mahomes is lighting shit up. His last 4 games, 1,160 yards, 10 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 2 of them last week, 73.5 completion percentage. So Pat Mahomes has been lights out. He is, I don't know why he's not, he should be every year, but he's kind of like the forgotten guy because it's been so much about Josh and Lamar the last like 2 years or so. Don't sleep on Pat Mahomes. He's very much in the NFL MVP mix right now. And then, his favorite target through these years, Travis Kelce. Let's just put it this way. The reports of Travis Kelce's great demise have definitely been exaggerated. He's led the team the last 3 games in a row now in receiving yards, 78, 54, 99. So he can still catch the rock and make some plays. Rashee Rice returned a couple weeks ago, and he's been fantastic. Say what you will about him, but on the field, he is a weapon. 7 catches for 42 yards and 2 touchdowns in his debut. Last week against Washington, this past Monday night, 9 catches for 93 yards and a touchdown on 9 targets. So this dude is an absolute handful, and he will be for the Bills secondary. Of course, you got Xavier Worthy. Bills fans know all too well about him, the Blazer, the speedster. Hollywood Brown, a good playmaker. You got Juju Schuster, who, hell, man, he might have 100 yards this game. Who the hell knows? Tyquan Thornton, he's led this team in receiving yards twice already this season. The Bills are known for everybody eats, but the reality is everybody is really eating with the Kansas City Chiefs. Some guys on the Buffalo Bills are going hungry or even starving. That's not the case with this Chiefs offense, at least not in the passing game, has been absolutely potent. And by the way, the defense played well too. Like Kansas City comes into this game, they've allowed just 7 points combined in their last 2 games. They beat Washington 28-7 on Monday Night Football. Now, granted, there was no Jaden Daniels, but still. And then they shut out the Raiders 31-0 the week before that. The Chiefs defense is 4th in yards per game, 13th in yards per play, 5th in EPA per play, 3rd in passing yards per game, 2nd in EPA per pass. So that pass defense is really, really good for the Chiefs. It's the rushing attack, or the rush defense, I should say, that's kind of been the Achilles heel a little bit of the Chiefs. 18th in rushing yards per play, 18th in rush EPA, 16th in quarterback pressures, middle of the pack, 15th quarterback pressure percentage, 35%. Again, middle of the pack. So pass defense has been awesome. The run defense has been kind of shitty for Kansas City so far this year. Individually, George Karlaftis, I always have a hard time saying his name, but anyway, he's leading the way. He's been the best player on that defense. 4.5 sacks, 36 quarterback pressures. He's been good. Trent McDuffie, always, one of the best corners in the league, and that's continued. Quarterback, 76.3% rating when targeting him. Again, Christian Benford, the Bills' best corner, 123. Big difference. I feel like if the Chiefs have a weakness, it would be maybe the safeties like Brian Cook, Jaden Hicks. They can be bad. They're not bad, but they're not great. Chamari Connor, nothing to write about at corner either. So there's holes there. There's definitely holes there. Kicking-wise, Harrison Butker's already missed 3 field goals this year, all from beyond 40 yards. He's also missed 3 extra points. Maybe that becomes a factor in this game. So again, to put a bow on the Kansas City Chiefs coming into this game, the offense has been lethal. They don't really run the ball that well. Kareem Hunt will be the main running back. Isaiah Pacheco, he won't be playing this Sunday. He's got an injury, but I don't think they're too concerned about their running game because they can just throw the ball all over the place. On defense, they're tough to throw on, but the running game has been there, which you look at the Bills and you're like, all right, well, that's a strength because the Bills' passing game has struggled, but the running game has been really good for the Bills. In fact, it's been the best. When it comes to my 3 keys for a Bills victory in this football game, number 1, and this is going to sound almost like an oxymoron compared to what we were just talking about, but I think the Bills' passing game is going to have to be up to task. And I say that because, again, the Chiefs are really good at defending the pass and have not been really good at defending the run. The Bills have been shaky at passing the ball and amazing at running it. Well, if you're the Kansas City Chiefs, if you're Spags, what are you doing this week? You're finding ways to stop the run. You want to take away the Bills' best weapon. And the Bills' best weapon, believe it or not, this year has been James Cook running the football, at least the most consistent one, right? So I see the Kansas City Chiefs making a very concerted effort, getting guys up in the box, run blitzing, creeping the safeties up, things like that, because it's not like the Bills are getting anybody over the top anyway this season. And they're going to crowd that box. They're going to make it difficult for the Bills to be able to run the football. So I think the passing game has to be up to task. You're not going to get away with beating the Kansas City Chiefs where Josh Allen only has to throw the ball 16 to 19 times for like 140 to 170 yards. I don't think that gets it done against a team that's this good. So you're going to have to be able to throw the ball, and you have to be able to do it in a lot of ways, because when you get into passing downs, Spags is going to blitz. The Chiefs blitz a lot. I think they blitz like the third highest rate of anybody in the NFL. And again, the Bills at times have had struggles when it comes to the blitz. We saw it a couple weeks ago in Atlanta. The Bills were dreadful on offense when Atlanta was blitzing. That can't happen again against the Kansas City Chiefs. So Joe Brady, man, you gotta scheme up some blitz beater plays, whether it's quick outs to Kincaid and to Shakir, Samuel, getting these guys open in space, opportunity to make plays after the catch, quick routes, hot reads, getting the running backs. I say this every week now, and it just doesn't happen. Getting the running backs legitimately involved in the passing game. That will take some pressure off. They're not going to blitz and bring as many guys if you got to account for running backs coming out of the backfield. It's just the way it goes. Again, Ty Johnson, anyone, this would be a great week for Ty Johnson to become a factor in the passing game, considering that Josh Allen thinks he's the best third down back in the NFL, yet we're 7 games into the season, and Ty Johnson has 2 catches for 7 yards this season. That's just terrible. And I don't blame that on Ty Johnson either. So, blitz beating plays, getting the running backs going in the passing game, getting a completion or 2 down the field to open things up. Again, if Kansas City's just going to bring everybody up to the line to try to stop the run or stop the short shit, the quick bubble screens that the Bills have been doing this year, that they've been feasted on at times, Kansas City's going to put a stop to that. And the only way to counter that is by getting guys down the field, taking some stabs down the field. So if the Bills can get a completion to Samuel or Elijah Moore or Keon Coleman, assuming that Keon even gets opportunity to do anything. Does Gabe Davis play? And I didn't want to mention him in this, but I'd be remiss, because if he does play and I don't even mention him, I would sound stupid. Who knows? But whoever it is, doesn't matter. You got to complete a couple passes down the field. So that's number one. The passing game's got to be up to stuff. It has to be. Number 2, getting off the field on third down. As simple as that. The Bills are going to try to take anything deep away. They're going to be scared as shit. They always have been, especially when Tyreek Hill was the Kansas City Chiefs. Sean McDermott is horrified of the Kansas City speed. He's not going to let guys get behind them. So there's going to be a lot of stuff open underneath, a lot of opportunities for Mahomes to lead some slow, or we'll say methodical type drives. Kansas City is 44% on third downs this year, which is 6th best in the NFL. The Bills stop third downs at 40.2.4%, which is just 23rd in the league. And they've been, I think, 37.5 over the last 3. So they've not been good at getting off the field on third down at all. And the Chiefs have been really good at staying on the field at third down. I'm not saying the Bills are, that they're going to hold them to like 4 out of 14 on third downs, but you can't have that number up around 50% or higher. You got to be able to get off the field a couple times on third downs, whether that's, the front 4 getting after Mahomes and making him rush to throw, or getting him to the ground, or these defenders just having good coverage or making a play or making a tackle underneath and not missing tackles and let guys pick it up yak. You got to get off the field on third down. And then my last key is the coaching. The coaching and the coordinators for the Bills. Don't hold anything back. This has got to be a ballsy performance from the coaches. And I'm talking like Sean McDermott going for it on fourth downs. I don't, unless you're like, you're back at your own 25-yard line and it's 4th and 3. I don't want to see punts on 4th and 2, 2.5. Don't want to see it. Not against this team. Take a few more chances in the passing game. Open it up, maybe early, to kind of soften up that Chiefs defense so you can get back to doing what you do best. Show some aggression on defense. Take some chances instead of just reacting to every little thing that the Chiefs do. Again, playing horrified of their speed. Sean McDermott needs to be unafraid to make tough decisions in this game. Like last week in Carolina, it was Poyer and Tre White out there, and they were fine against Carolina. And they worked in Max Hairston, played about half the snaps with Tre. Jordan Hancock came in, I think he had 16 snaps. He primarily played when the Bills expected the Panthers to pass. Well, if speed's an issue, and if Poyer and Tre White's lack of it is hurting them out there, forget about the platoon. Don't be afraid to go to Max Hairston and Jordan Hancock and just leave them in there. I'm not talking about a platoon situation either. So ride whoever's playing better that entire game. Or conversely, hey, if Tre White's having himself a day, I don't need Max Hairston to get his reps in that game. I want the player who's performing the best out there. So he might have to make that tough call. Linebacker, and this is predicated on Shaq Thompson even being able to play, which does not look great as we record this. But if he does, and Buddy don't start, and Bernard's out there, and he's not playing well, then you go to Shaq and the mic. Ditto for Milano. If Milano's just out there and he's not doing anything, go to Dorian Williams. Don't be afraid to make those tough decisions. And then offensively, I think Joe Brady's been figured out. I just feel like defensive, the whole everybody eats thing, running the ball. There's a lack of creativity, and that's okay for the most part, but I feel like he's been figured out. He's got to find some new wrinkles against the Chiefs anyway, some adjustments to kind of throw off the scent of Spags. Can't be easy to defend. Now, it doesn't matter if you're easy to defend when you're playing against, the Jets and the Saints and the Panthers of the world, but trust me, it's going to matter when you're playing against the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday. All right, folks, one more real quick break, come back, 5 bowl predictions, and then a score pick for this game. All right, folks, man, God, I am really excited about this football game on Sunday. It's recording this late afternoon Thursday. It's going to be a long, what is that? I can't even do my math here. 72 hours? Jesus, Patrick. 72 hours about now from the start of this game. Cannot wait. All right, bowl predictions, folks. I gave you my 3 keys to what I think a Bills victory is going to be, which, again, is being able to throw the football well, getting off the field on third downs at least half the time, and just kind of opening up your eyes and having guts when it comes to coaching and coordinating. In terms of my 5 bold predictions, and I do put the word bold in there. Some of them are more bold than others, but I don't think I think none of these are ever easy. Like James Cook running for 75 yards. That's not a bold prediction. He should do that. These are bold predictions here. I got Josh Allen throwing for 300 yards between the pass and the rush, I should say. So 300 yards of offense from Josh Allen with 3 touchdowns, again, between throwing the ball or running it. And again, I know the Bills want to run the football. I would too, by the way. If the Bills can run the football, let's make no mistake about this. If the Bills, even if the Chiefs are trying to stop it and they can't, and the Bills can effectively run the football and run play action off it and be in jumbo packages and have success and keep Pat Mahomes on the sidelines for, 20, 37 minutes of a game, that's awesome. And I hope that's the case. If the Bills, ideally in Sean McDermott's dream world, James Cook and the Bills run for 175, 200 yards. Josh Allen only has to throw 20 times for 150 yards, no turnovers. That is a dream scenario for the Bills. I just don't envision it because I do feel like the Chiefs are going to find a way to curb, I'll say contain, I don't say completely stop, but at least contain James Cook. Josh Allen in the passing game is going to have to come alive. So 300 yards passing, or like I said, rushing as well. 3 touchdowns for Josh. It's time for Josh to put an end to the outside noise, most of it which is stupid, that suggests that maybe Josh Allen has lost a mile or two on his fastball. I will say, it doesn't look like, at least that Atlanta game, just didn't look like he was having any fun. And I know that sounds kind of corny, but it's true. He looked really frustrated. I think Josh Allen has been frustrated with this offense. So this is an excellent opportunity for him to get back to being an MVP caliber Josh Allen. And I think you're gonna see it. Second one, I'm gonna try this again. I did it last week, failed miserably. Last week I said 4. I'm gonna be a little more realistic and say 5. The Buffalo Bills are gonna have 5 penalties or less this game. And that's bold as shit considering that they're playing the Kansas City Chiefs. All right? Officiating, Chiefs, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, the Bills, their last 4 games, 11, 11, 8, and 7 penalties, accepted penalties against them the last 4 games. That's got to come down. And again, in terms of bowl predictions, when the penalties not seem to be a factor when the Kansas City Chiefs play, right? So that's 2. 3, I think when it's close in the fourth quarter, and I do think this game's going to be close in the fourth quarter, I think you're going to see Max Hairston out there almost exclusively, not Tre White. Like, they're going to platoon early on, maybe like they did in Carolina. But if Max Hairston can handle the load, he's going to play more, especially and maybe by the second half, it's just Max Hairston and there's no more platoon. So I think you're going to see Max Hairston out there a lot. In the fourth quarter of a close game, it might be only him. So that's 3. 4, I think the Chiefs are going to win time of possession in this game because I think the Bills will struggle to get off the field on third downs. Kansas City's just really good. I mean, this is a good football team, folks. I can see them having a 55 or 60% or better conversion rate. So that's the bad news for the Bills. But the good news for the Bills is that I think they're going to produce 2 takeaways in this football game to offset that. One's going to be an interception. One's going to be a fumble. I'm going to call a Christian Bedford interception, which would be his first of the year. Hell, if any cornerback has an interception for the Bills, it would be their first of the year. The Bills don't have an interception this season from a corner. So I'm saying Christian Bedford gets the interception, and I'm going to call for the rookie, Deion Walker, forcing a fumble with Terrell Bernard, the much maligned recently Terrell Bernard, getting the recovery. So there you go. Josh Allen, 300 total yards, 5 penalties or less. Max Hairston out there in the fourth, and 2 turnovers by the Bills defense. And now I think about it, I said 5 bowl predictions, and that's only 4. I'll come up with one here on the fly. Curtis Samuel, anytime touchdown. That dude needs to step up. Last week, I was excited. I was actually excited to see him back in the lineup. And I said, with Josh Palmer out, and Josh Palmer was limited, very limited from what we're being told on Thursday. I wouldn't count on him playing in this game on Sunday. But anyway, Curtis Samuel last week, not even a target in the passing game. And he's had some success before against the Chiefs. So Curtis Samuel, anytime touchdown. That'll be my 5th prediction here. All right, final score pick. Final score. I feel like I've been objective and honest. I truly do. And being objective and honest right now, I think the Kansas City Chiefs are a better football team than the Buffalo Bills. At least right now. At least right now. I think they're more consistent. I think they're better coached. And quite frankly, I think that they're a little more talented than the Buffalo Bills. Definitely on offense. But I see the Bills continuing to thrive. And this hasn't been talked about this entire episode. And this might be one of the biggest factors of this game, folks. The Bills seem to thrive the most when they're the underdogs. Whether they feel like they're the underdogs or whether they are actually the underdog, in this case they are, 1.5 points, they play their best football. The chip on their shoulder is unreal. And this is a football team that seems to play amazing when they have a chip on their shoulder, and they seem to be very overrated when they start to feel themselves a little bit too much, which I think has been the case a lot earlier in this season. I think everybody saying that the Bills are the best team in the NFL, the Bills are literally the betting favorite to win a Super Bowl. I think maybe a little bit, and after they beat Baltimore, I think over the next handful of weeks, that kind of got into their heads a little bit. But now they've been humbled. Losing at home to New England, getting embarrassed on Monday Night Football against Atlanta. That's humbled them some. And they're home underdogs. This is a team that didn't lose at home last year, and they're underdogs on their home field. So I think the Bills are going to be very hungry. Again, that chip on their shoulder. And when it comes to Josh, maybe he's not hearing the noise, right now are people being critical about Hollywood Josh Allen right now. Maybe he's not hearing the noise, but I think Josh is feeling the noise. I do. And this feels like a man who is poised right now to carry this football team on his back to a big win for the second time this season, just like he did against Baltimore in week 1. I said it a few minutes ago. I see a Josh Allen 300-yard game between passing and rushing with multiple touchdowns, Kincaid and Shakir making some plays, and somebody stepping up, whether it's Curtis Samuel or Ty Johnson, guys like that I've talked about during this show. I do think the defense is going to struggle some because the Chiefs are just great. They're a great offense, but they'll come up with a play or two that they need to, like they always seem to do when these teams play in the regular season. Last year, the Bills won 30-21. Josh Allen was AFC Offensive Player of the Week. And that was in Orchard Park. I'm going to close this episode by saying I feel something similar. And is in my heart talking? Of course it is. But it's also, I truly, genuinely feel this. I think the Bills get their shit together. I feel like they get their shit together this game. I think they do the things that they have to do. And I think a lot of guys on this team that have been very mediocre to pedestrian, like Terrell Bernard, like Christian Benford, like Matt Milano, like Greg Rizzo, at least at times, maybe Keon Coleman, Elijah Moore, some of these guys that we expected a lot more from that we haven't seen collectively, they're going to step up. They're at home. They're going to feed off that energy. They have a lot of confidence playing this team, and I think the Bills get it done on their home field. Final score, Buffalo 27, Kansas City 20. So there you go. Bills 27, Kansas City 20. I don't expect to have a weekend bonus episode on Saturday. You never know. Again, follow, subscribe, and if we drop one, you'll know about it. But what I do know is I will be on live, win or lose, Sunday night, 9 p.m., about maybe an hour and a half or so after this game ends. I'll be on with Joe from Queens. We'll break it all down, the good, the bad, the ugly. Last point, I just feel like we will have, maybe for the first time this season, a strong case for the Bills one way or the other, whether they are legitimate contenders or whether it is officially time to put fraud alert on this football team. We'll find out one way or the other on Sunday, 9 p.m. live. Thank you so much for watching, for listening. I appreciate you all. Have a good weekend. Have a fun weekend, and hopefully you enjoy this game. And you know what? I usually don't say it, but I will in this case. Go Bills.